Secretary, we would like to present you. We have the pleasure of presenting you on behalf of the board and the staff of the National Park Trust and our many members, guests, and supporters, the 2010 American Park Experience Award for all of your efforts in support of our parks and our young people. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.
You know, I always say that in my job, the most inspiring things that I get to do is actually to work with young people. I can be in a cabinet meeting, as I was yesterday, with the President of the United States and my colleagues on the cabinet, or I can be on the floor of the U.S. Senate or speaking with Senator Reid and Senator Durbin, as I was very late last night. And as inspiring and as blessed as I am from those great opportunities, I can tell you that when I see young people like these young people who really are the face of America today and into the future, it is absolutely the most inspiring thing for me, and I'm sure it is to all of you. So let's give them another round of applause. And we all know that there is a profession called teaching, which is sometimes not as recognized or as appreciated for the great sacrifices that teachers make in our country. And they really are the ones who we turn our children over to and the ones who teach our children about great things. And so the award that has been bestowed on Carolyn today is really emblematic about the appreciation that we have for the teachers of the United States of America. So Carolyn, please stand and let's give you a round of applause for all that you do. And to Bill Bromwell and Grace Lee, Diana Taylor, and all the members of the board of the National Park Trust, let me just say that I appreciate what you do because you obviously make a difference. You make a huge difference in the lives of young people, as you have with these young people here today and the many young people that you touch around the country. You also make a huge difference with respect to the preservation and conservation of iconic natural wonders and history here in America. Bill and a few others, I think, with me, were out at the Flint Hills dedication of the national wildlife, the newest national wildlife conservation area, which is our 555th national wildlife conservation area in the United States of America. It's 1.1 million acres that will preserve the tall grass prairies so that you, when you're older, 50 years from now and 100 years from now, people can still go to Kansas and they'll be able to find the tall grass prairies preserved in the same way that it was 100 years ago and 200 years ago. And today there's only about 4% of the tall grass prairie in the original ecosystem that still exists. And so if it was not for the efforts of the National Park Trust, we would not be able to take on those kinds of initiatives. So I want to thank not only Bill, but also the members of the board and the staff for the great work and contribution that they make all the way around the country. Help me give them a round of applause. I'm going to make just 3 substantive points. First, our young people and how we support our young people and the efforts that we undertake. For me as the Secretary of Interior, and I very, very much am humbled and appreciate this award. I don't deserve it. There are lots of other people who deserve it more than I do, but we have been fortunate that in my office, under the leadership of Bob Stanton, who was the first African-American National Park Service Director, sitting in the back. And now Julie Rodriguez, who is back here, who is running the Office of Youth in our office. Other members of my staff who really said that we could do something that people said we couldn't do. When I came into the Department of Interior, I said I want to develop a 21st Century Land Conservation Corps program, and I want to engage young people all across the country in our parks and our wildlife refuges and BLM facilities. And we were told, well, it's going to be really tough to do, but because there's such an enthusiasm and the kinds of partnerships that we were able to create. Julie was telling me a few minutes ago that we actually have reached a number for this year, 2010, where there are now 21,000 young people who are employed within the Department of Interior. That's the next generation of conservation leaders. And I very much thank Bob and Rhea Sue and Julie and Carly and others who have been involved in making this all happen. So we have a lot more work ahead of us, and we promise that we'll continue to deliver. So why do we do it? We do it really because, number one, it's a great opportunity to expose young people to the great wonders of America, both its natural wonders and its historic wonders. For me as Secretary of Interior, I look at my job and I define it as Senator Inouye defined it for me a long time ago, where he said, the Department of Interior and being Secretary is the best position in all the cabinet, because you're the custodian of America's natural resources, but you're also the custodian of America's history. And we do that with places like Liberty Island, or we do that here at the National Mall, or we do it all over the United States in all of our parks and our facilities. And so education is part of why we have such an important focus on our young people. In addition to that, the reason that we have brought in young people to our department in the way that we're doing it is about 40% of our workforce, out of some 80,000 people, will turn over between now and the year 2016. And so it creates great opportunities to create the next generation of great employees within the Department of Interior and the next generation of conservationists. So we will continue to have our focus on youth at the Department of Interior. The second thing I wanted to briefly comment on, and this is not only for the young people, but it's also for many of you who I know have been working on an agenda for us, and that's the America's Great Outdoors program, and the funding, hopefully, that will come along to move forward with the Land and Water Conservation Fund. When I think back to my predecessors, and I have been told the stories by Stuart Udall, who talked to me on the phone, and I sat with him probably now a year and a half ago, talking about the formation of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And he tells me the story of him sitting down in my office with Bobby Kennedy and with Gil Grossner and Pat Noonan and Henry Diamond back in the 1960s. And they, at that time, decided it was important to try to form a Land and Water Conservation Fund because we needed to invest in conservation. As they saw it, as we take from the earth, it was important to return something back from the earth. Well, we, as the stewards of America's natural resources, develop a lot of oil and gas and coal and a whole host of other resources, and generate some, on average, $13 to $14 billion a year that goes into the American Treasury. Our view is that a part of that money should go into the Land and Water Conservation Fund for conservation purposes. And so as we speak today, there is a major effort underway in the U.S. Congress to see whether, as part of the tax extender bill that is being considered, that we might be able to finally fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So for you who are on the board, for people like Bill and Bob and others who I see around here who have been engaged in this effort, the time is now. And really whether or not we're able to do it would maybe be decided just in the next 48 hours. So help us try to get that done. And finally, let me just say this. America's Great Outdoors in its definition will be announced by President Obama here in sometime in the next, in the upcoming weeks or months. And the essence of what we hope that report will do is to focus in on some realities and challenges of conservation in the 21st century. One of those is what we do with our urban populations and creating a next generation of great urban parks. In a few minutes, I will have a telephone call with Mayor Bloomberg on some of the efforts that we have underway in the city of New York. And tomorrow, I will be in St. Louis at the Arch of St. Louis with Senator McCaskill in Durban and my colleague Ray LaHood, where we'll be speaking about a great urban park at St. Louis. It goes way beyond the Arch and really creates an area that can connect up the 3 million people both in St. Louis, Missouri, as well as in East St. Louis, Illinois, to create one of the iconic parks that ties in the Mississippi, the history of Dred Scott and his contributions to the liberation of America, and the other history along the Mississippi River. So those are the kinds of things that we hope are included in the report that we're finalizing for the President of the United States. And let me just conclude by saying, in my own life, I've had a very blessed journey, and so much of it comes from having had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the outdoors as a farmer and as a rancher, as a young boy growing up in a very rural place of America. That's where my love came for the streams and the forests, the birds and the wildlife, and it's something that I had an opportunity to cherish as a very young man, and hopefully it's the same kind of opportunity that these young people and all the young people all across America will be able to cherish. So Bill, and to the board, thank you very much. I'm honored and I'm humbled with this award.